ways, our memories make us who we are, helping us remember our past, learn and retain skills, and plan for the future. And for the computers that often act as extensions of ourselves, memory plays much the same role. Whether it's a 2-hour movie, a 2-word text file, or the instructions for opening either, everything in a computer's memory takes the form of basic units called bits, or binary digits. Each of these is stored in a memory cell that can switch between 2 states for 2 possible values, 0 and 1. Files and programs consist of millions of these bits, all processed in the Central Processing Unit, or CPU, that acts as the computer's brain. And as the number of bits needing to be processed grows exponentially, computer designers face a constant struggle between size, cost, and speed. Like us, computers have short-term memory for immediate tasks and long-term memory for more permanent storage. When you run a program, your operating system allocates area within the short-term memory for performing those instructions. For example, when you press a key in a word processor, the CPU will access one of these locations to retrieve bits of data. It could also modify them or create new ones. The time this takes is known as the memory's latency. And because program instructions must be processed quickly and continuously, all locations within the short-term memory can be accessed in any order, hence the name random access memory. The most common type of RAM is dynamic RAM, or DRAM. There, each memory cell consists of a tiny transistor and a capacitor that store electrical charges, a 0 when there's no charge, or a 1 when charged. Such memory is called dynamic because it only holds charges briefly before they leak away, requiring periodic recharging to retain data.
Today is the 28th of June, 2021, and we're still on the Prelude series to Shape of a World, which we have said, and we're still saying, is the video of all videos. And as we've said, if you've had the book, the DVDs in the Concealed Mystery of Iniquity, the Remnant documentary, and the Remnant extended theme, you will have had about 5% of real intelligible information. And the Shape of Our World is going to give you 45% of information that will boggle your mind. So if you have learned anything through the book, The Concealed Mystery and Origins of a Depressed Black People, The Concealed Mystery of Iniquity DVD, the Remnant documentary, and the Remnant extended theme, it's all but 5% of the whole embodiment of truth that you'll come to be accustomed to. But by the time you get to the Shape of a World, it will be 45% of truth you would have had now up to this point. If you have the book, The Concealed Mystery and Origins of a Depressed Black People, the DVDs in The Concealed Mystery of Iniquity, the Remnant documentary, and the Remnant extended theme, together with the Shape of a World, you will have 50% of truth in the whole embodiment of truth. The other 50% of truth will be present in our Bible. So, like we've said, the Shape of a World is not going to be for everybody, because this is the kind of information that is not going to be in the hands of everybody. Because YouTube, as we are on YouTube for now, because very soon we will no longer be on YouTube. On YouTube, we have been dealing with a lot of ignorant people. And we've been pleading with them day and night. Okay? Come and get the truth. Because this is the only channel in the world, the only place in the world you will hear the truth. Why is that? Because the information that you're hearing is coming directly from a high priest, which has given us the privilege to be able to let you people know this information. And we've been pleading with them day and night for everybody in the world who's interested in the truth for now, because at this point in time, we are at the precipice of which the information is going to switch. It's no longer going to be for the rest of the people of the world. And someone's going to ask, how's that going to switch? Because you have to understand right now, the whole world speaks English. So all of our videos and our transmissions that we are doing right now, trying to get people to come to the truth for those who are of the children of the Creator. That means those who have had a remnant in their lineage to come to the truth. We have been broadcasting all of this via YouTube with English. But the time is going to come in which the language is going to switch, and we are going to speak the remnant language, because it's going to be the time for the remnant only to get this message. So we started from the outside and we're going in. So the time is very short, because we keep saying this and people still keep playing about. Just like the high priest Noah in his time during the flood kept on talking to the world and telling them that this world is going to be destroyed. Come with me into this boat. They never heard until the time came that when, for the very first time in history, the people living in that time saw something that they had never ever seen before. They saw water falling from the heavens. Because people, you have to understand, the people who lived in the flood lived for about 2,500 years before the world got destroyed. And during that time period, we saw the scum of the earth, albinos, anybody with straight hair, how they really looked like, what they looked like, which was the ugliest beings in the world. Because today, as we have said, when you look at any albino, anybody with straight hair, you think that they look human. But even when you're looking at them, you know they look weird. There is something off, because they are not human. But during that time before the flood, you could fully recognize that an albino, anybody with straight hair, was not human, because they did not look human as you see them today. Because an albino is a creation of Satan, which is an angel with a human being. And during the flood, angels were sleeping with black human women and giving birth to albinos, anybody with straight hair. So probably you've heard before of such stories as they tell you. You probably heard David Icke would use this, who's an albino himself. He says that there are reptilians living amongst us. Who do you think the reptilians are? You think they are black people? Well, we won't get into that finer detail until we get to the shape of a world.
Hi, I'm Nat, and lately I've been wondering, is there a secret race of reptile people controlling our governments and enslaving humanity? We'll see. Since I was a child, I've been naturally inquisitive, questioning anything and everything that didn't quite make sense. Here I'll be studying the evidence for and against all of history's mysteries, doing the work so you don't have to, but you really should do it on your own, like check sources and all that. Okay. On today's episode, Reptilian Conspiracy. If you've been paying attention, you might have heard more and more references to a clandestine reptilian humanoid race. Sound familiar? It's shown up in pop culture with increasing regularity. You've heard it on podcasts, in politics. The theory has even infiltrated the hit romance reality show, Love Island. Just what are all these people talking about? Let's get into it. Okay, so as with nearly any conspiracy theory, there are usually variations in belief, but for the most part, the theory posits that there is a race of reptilians, or lizard people, if you will, and you should, that work in secret to dominate and rule over humans like you. Now, while the suggested origin of these lizard people varies from theorist to theorist, some say that they're from Earth, some say that they're from space, some say that they started on Earth, went to space, and came back. The one thing that most folks agree on is that these motherfuckers are evil. So how do these lizard folk go from ruling in secret to getting brought up in Love Island casual contestant conversation? Well, the reptoids can thank former soccer player, sports reporter, and hot take haver David Icke for absolutely and utterly blowing up their spot. It's also worth noting now that David Icke's ideas are kind of problematic and borderline prejudiced, but we'll get to that later. In 1998, David Icke released a book called The Biggest Secret, where two people he interviewed claimed that the British royal family were not in fact humans, but lizard people. Icke also claims that George W. Bush, Henry Kissinger, Bill, and Hillary Clinton, and Bob Hope are lizard people as well. Icke says that the reptoids are responsible for the JFK assassination, Princess Diana's death, and even 9/11. According to Icke, the Anunnaki, an ancient species of prehistoric alien demigods, came from the Orion, Sirius, and Draco constellations, created humans, and then created a reptilian-human hybrid. Making sense, right? Additionally, Icke suggests that lizard people drink human blood, which allows them to shapeshift into human form, allowing them to, I guess, then become a vaudeville legend and have an airport named after them. Icke has written that presidents and prime ministers have either been lizard people themselves or have been possessed or controlled by lizard people, and that they have had control over powerful offices since ancient times, like when Shrek 1 came out. Pretty heavy stuff, right? So what is there that even supports these wild-ass claims? Well, a little bit. Kind of.
So what is there that even supports these wild-ass claims? Well, a little bit. Kind of.
So what is there that even supports these wild-ass claims? Well, a little bit. Kind of.
Just in case you've ever wondered whether it's actually possible to trace conspiracy theories back to their origins, here's one where you can. In March 2017, a mysterious headline popped up on the internet that read, "Hundreds of fans claim they saw Justin Bieber turn into a giant reptile." The original website where the article appeared was the dubious Australian news site Perth Now. In the story, several anonymous sources gave colorful descriptions of the supposed incident. Apparently, the Biebs was found shape-shifting at a Perth airport, and hundreds of fans witnessed the pop star undergo this drastic transformation into a slimy lizard person. One memorable quote from the article was from a, quote, local skater, who said that Bieber, quote, was hanging around with this big guy, his bodyguard, I guess, and we were just staring because he kept turning into a huge reptile. His bodyguard was pointing at us, shouting that he'd kick our teeth in if we didn't put our phones away. Another onlooker told the site, quote, there were girls hiding in toilets crying. Guys were running for the exits, jumping into taxis to get out of there. Someone said they saw his eyes go black. Another person claimed the singer grew taller and had gross scales all over his body. Basically, there was chaos, there were phones, and people were recording the entire terrifying scene. Except for one tiny detail. There weren't any videos of this actually happening, and Perth Now removed the article from its site. BuzzFeed News added to the confusion when it first addressed the story and its discrepancies. They were told by Perth Now's head of digital content that the site never even published the piece in the first place. He said that the site doesn't use uppercase on the first letter of every word in the headline, as shown in screen grabs of the story. And besides that, the weather forecast displayed that day wasn't accurate. So, in other words, fake news. Not that this was the first time Bieber has been accused of being part reptile, however. In 2014, The Daily Dot published a story about the pop star's arrest that year, with a video of Bieber looking glum in court. Conspiracy believers noticed something strange about the way Justin blinked in the video, claiming that he was blinking the way only a lizard can. The clip now has more than 3 million views. But Justin Bieber isn't the only famous person who's been accused of being a reptilian. Former BBC sports reporter David Icke, who published an entire collection of books about the conspiracy, is cited as the authority on this theory. Many other prominent individuals have been labeled lizard people according to this theory, including Mark Zuckerberg, Bob Hope, and even Queen Elizabeth. The theory behind the theory is that flesh-eating, shape-shifting extraterrestrial reptilian humanoids were sent here to Earth to enslave the human race.
But for now, this is just the prelude, because every time we are trying to get people who do not understand the remnant language. Because as we've said right now, everything we're doing as broadcast right now on YouTube is in English, but very soon it's going to end. It's not going to be on YouTube anymore. We're going to be speaking directly to the remnant in their own language. And so if you do not understand the remnant language, you will never get the materials that you're supposed to need to understand the truth. So now that we're pleading with everybody to get the truth, they still play around. So the shape of a world is going to be the last video that we probably make that's going to be addressed to people who are not the remnant by language, origin, or lineage, but are remnant because they have a parent who was a remnant in their lineage. Now, the shape of a world, like we said, is not going to be for everybody. It's going to be for only those who are worthy. Worthy in the sense that you have not copied or reproduced any of our work in any kind and shared it with somebody who was not living in your own house and gave it away. Now, someone's going to ask the question. We've already answered this question in the prelude of the shape of a world before this particular one. But in this particular one, we want to show you how. Because when we make these videos that we do make on YouTube, the government takes it down and they have had impunity to do as they wish at any point in time because they created the system that we are using today, which is called the internet. So part of the reason that they've been able to do that is because they have lied to everybody about the technology that we use. So in today's world, they have added complexity to technology such that people do not understand how technology works. Now, this is how crazy and stupid people are. Albinos, anybody with straight hair, the scum of the earth, idiots. And whenever we use that word idiots, people do not understand that the word idiot is derived from idiot, because the ancient blacks of history used to call albinos anybody with straight hair idiots, which means somebody who has no common sense. Let's pull up a meaning before we continue here. So you're looking at the screen at the meaning of idiot, because this is the exact meaning of the word idiot, because idiot means idiot. It's just that people, when in pronunciation, cannot pronounce the N, so they say idiot instead of saying idiot. As you can see right here, it says, a person of Indian descent, which means everybody who's an albino, anybody with straight hair today. It goes on to say, whom shows sign of not paying attention or simply not understanding anything. So when we say this, that if you're listening to an albino, anybody with straight hair tell you anything, that they are telling you a lie because they themselves do not even understand what they are saying. This is the literal truth. So for every technology that you've ever heard any albino like Steve Jobs or anybody who's great, like maybe the guy who runs Tesla, we don't remember his name at this particular point in time, all right?
If there was a button I could press to stop all hydrocarbon usage today, I would not press it.
You would not press it?
Of course not.
Okay. Did you expect him to say that? What kind of a threat do you think you are to the oil and gas industry?
Well, I don't think we're much of a threat. I mean, yet. Yet. I mean, the more obvious threat is that we're going to run out of hydrocarbons to mine and burn. That's rather obvious. I mean, it's not
no time soon, judging from the comments we've had this morning.
So it's getting harder and harder to find hydrocarbons, and it's getting much more expensive to extract them. And really, we're just arguing about the when hydrocarbons run out or become prohibitively expensive, not if. I mean, I don't think there's there's anyone here who would say it's an if, not a when.
I mean, you are, a tech guy, right? You're a physicist and an engineer. You call yourself the chief architect of companies.
I tend to view things from
you don't
sort of
think
a physics
human
standpoint.
Ingenuity and technology and resourcefulness will mean that we will still have abundant fossil fuels available?
Not.
I mean, this has been going on for some time. They think you've reached the boundaries, and yet they find more. And look at the whole shale gas revolution.
There are time extensions on the game, but the game is going to come to an end. That should be absolutely certain, obviously, frankly. But
For every technology that you've ever heard any albino speak to you in such language that it looks like they are speaking intelligence, they are actually speaking to you as a fool. And you're going to find that out as we get into this video, because this video today is based on showing you that every technology which is computer based on the way it works is a fallacy, is a lie. Because the people who invented computers are Africans. And as we've explained before on Roll Call, not Legends of Roll Call, go and watch that series called Roll Call. We would have explained to you that Africans are the most intelligent people in the world. Because of what? Because of food and sunlight. And everybody else who is not African has the most minute of intelligence. But today, we find out that because they always want you to believe that Africans are stupid and dumb, they have made you to believe that people who live in America or Black Americans are more intelligent than Africans, and Black Americans look down on Africans without paying respect to the people who have brought them everything that they use. And as we have said, every invention in this world, everything that you are enjoying came from a remnant. This is the literal truth. So as long as you're listening to an albino, anybody with straight hair speak, all you are getting is the most useless information ever. But let's get back to why we are here now. So when we started this video, we made you understand that today is the 28th of June, 2021, and a lot of people now are coming out of the COVID-19 debacle by having a vaccination. And since we're trying as much as possible to make sure, because the government and the learned elders of Zion are going to realize a very stark reality on this particular video, we want to make sure that the video at least plays for them to hear because they're listening. So people are coming out of the COVID-19 debacle right now. They are trying to go about their normal lives because they've received a vaccine and received a vaccination passport, which will be a requirement for entry into everywhere very soon. Okay? They will start asking you to show your vaccination passport as an entry for you not wearing a mask. And already we are hearing that there are variations of the COVID-19 virus, which means that this particular variation may start another pandemic very soon. Now, we don't want to spend too much time talking about that because we want all of them, especially the learned elders of Zion, to listen to this particular video. Now, we live in such terrible times in our society right now because the so-called freedom that they are giving you right now is a deception. Deception planned by Satan and the kings of this world. Now, what you have to understand is this. The reason why the remnants suffer today, and you're looking at the screen and you're wondering what you're looking at. We're trying to show you the reason why the remnant is suffering. Okay? This particular video is not for everybody. It is for the remnant publicly. So if you're listening in, that's fine. The reason why the remnant suffer is because they have forsaken their creator. Now, someone is going to ask the question, how do we forsake our creator? Someone may answer and say, we forsake the creator by not doing his commandments and practicing wickedness. That is very, very correct. But it's not totally correct. And that is the reason why we're making this video. How people forsake their creator is when they forsake the high priests and forsake the Levitical priesthood. Why is that the case? And that is what we want to show you on this particular video. Now, the remnants were not like the rest of the nations. Now, this is history which is written in such a way and hidden in the scriptures, but you're going to see it today, okay? Because a high priest is revealing this information to you. The remnants were not to be like any other country or nation in the world. They were not to have a king. They were not to have a ruler. They were not to have a chief. They were not to have rulers paramount, who are the learned elders of Zion, which sit over the remnant, and the remnant worship them. The remnant were not to have any chief. So every chief, every ruler, every governor, in which some of the learned elders of Zion, who are rulers paramount, have become, they are illegal to the remnant. So I want you guys who are listening today to hear this, because this message will get to the remnants. So according to the remnant tradition, they were not to have any chief. They were not to have any king. They were not to have any rulers paramount. They were not to have any governor. They were not to have any president. They were not to have any form of political rulership of the people in either the houses of representatives or the Senate. So, since the remnants do have that today, they are in direct defiance against the Creator, against His commandments. So, the question we're trying to answer is this now. What does it mean to forsake the Creator? It means to forsake the high priests and the Levitical priesthood. Because the high priests and the Levitical priesthood were the only people who represented the Creator. So what does this mean? So let's explain this a little bit further so you understand what we're saying. None of us see the Creator face to face. Nobody has ever seen the Creator. Besides the time when He came as the chief high priest of the remnant, which the remnant themselves did not recognize. So why did the Creator come in flesh and blood as a human being as the chief high priest of the remnant? Two reasons. The first reason is because He made a promise to Abraham and told him that he is the heir of the whole entire world and the remnants come out from Abraham. That is the first reason. We're not going to explain that much more further than that for now. When we get to the shape of a world, we'll break that down. What was the second reason? Because you have to understand that Abraham was a high priest. The high priest lineage starts with the Creator, who is the chief high priest of the whole entire universe. Like we've explained before, the Creator is not a king. He is a chief high priest. So the lineage of priesthood got tracked from who? From the Creator to Adam. From Adam, it passed to who? It passed to Enoch. From Enoch, it passed to who? It passed to Noah. From Noah, who did it pass to? It passed to Abraham. And from Abraham, it passed to the Levitical priest in the families of Moses' father. What is the second reason that the Creator came as a human being, as the chief high priest to the remnant? To restore the high priest position, because the remnant had forsaken their Creator by forsaking their high priest. This was a law and a commandment in the 10 Commandments, which the Romans, in which the albinos, anybody with straight hair, changed by saying, you shall honor your parents in the commandments. That wasn't there. That particular commandment said, you shall honor your high priests. That was the commandment to the remnant. So the reason why the remnant are suffering, as they have always suffered right from the time of the book of Samuel, that is why you're looking at this screen, because everything that we tell you, we have to show you with facts. So it doesn't just look like we're talking, we have to show you facts verbally, so you see it. So the remnant has been suffering right from the time of Samuel because they forgot their commandments, which they were to live by, and started requiring a king to be like the other nations of the world, which they still do today. So the answer to the question is this: how do people forsake the Creator? You forsake the Creator by dishonoring your high priest, by not listening to your high priest, by not counting the high priest as being relevant, by not recognizing your high priest. That is how you forsake the Creator if you are a remnant. Because nobody sees the Creator. The Creator only speaks the truth through a high priest. So the high priest is a representation of the Creator. So everything he tells you to do, that is what you do. And this message is specifically for the remnant, because we are not addressing everybody here. So let's show you one of those commandments. So right now, if you've been on Legends of Roll Call, you would have known that 2 commandments were changed. Let's show you the third one before we continue on. So we are showing you how the abominable, scum of the earth, senile, idiot, albinos, anybody with straight hair of the Ottoman Empire who came in to the world, changed scripture so that people would not recognize what the commandments really are. And you are very fortunate, if you've been listening to Legends of Roll Call, to know at least 3 of the commandments which has been changed at this particular point in time. But the rest of the 7, you will never get it. Okay? Until you get initiated into the concealed mystery of iniquity. Because when we tell people that the whole commandments will change, they think we are joking. So if you're not initiated, you do not have the book, The Concealed Mystery and Origins of a Depressed Black People, the DVDs in The Concealed Mystery of Iniquity, The Remnant and The Remnant documentary, you will never be able to understand the rest of the commandments as we progress with showing you what has been changed. And as we've explained, if all the information you're getting from us is from the YouTube videos, you don't have anything. You will only end up in so much confusion that you will not be able to even understand what we have said. But people think that this is a joke because people don't understand how the world works. You can only hear the truth from a high priest. It doesn't matter what oratorial skills someone has, what intelligence they have, what degrees they have, because all degrees are bullshit. When you start hearing someone speak and say that they went to a certain school or they've attained this level of education, you're listening to the greatest fool speak. Or what you're getting carried away is because maybe they speak with a funny accent, because today white supremacy has made us believe if you hear someone speak in a funny accent, okay, and he has some knowledge and he says that he's a scientist, that means you can believe him. He has real knowledge. That's how they lie to you. Just like they've made you to believe that everybody who speaks good English has an American accent or British accent means that they know something. Immediately you hear someone start speaking English with a good accent and try to explain something to you in any field of endeavor, in any science, you have to understand that you're listening to a fool. Because this is how witchcraft and mind sorcery is used on people. So you have to understand that everything we say is metaphysical. Someone will say, what does metaphysical mean? There is no such thing as spirituality. There is no such thing as a spirit. Those words were constructed to confuse and suspend your mind to think in terms of a fantasy. Everything in this world is material. The creator is material. That means you can see the creator. So there is no such thing as spirituality or the word spirit or the word spirituality. Everything is metaphysical. What does metaphysical mean? So because Satan and his children introduced the word spiritual and spirit into humanity, humanity has been made to think about things which pertain to the creator as being some sort of fantasy. So for example, you hear people talk about Satan. They talk about Satan like it's some sort of abstract object. Or they talk about evil and wickedness like it's an abstract object. Okay? That means it's just something that you do. But these things are literal. They are physical but metaphysical. So let's explain this so you understand. So if you listen to Legends of Roll Call, we did make you understand that in reality there are only two states of matter. Matter can either be solid, and that liquid is also a solid, but a liquid is a solid that can move. And the other state of matter is gaseous state. So matter, everything exists either as a solid or as a gas. So when things exist in the form of being a solid or a gas, it means that you can touch it and you can feel it. Okay? So that is the meaning of something to be physical. So everything about our world and the world that's beyond us, which we do not see, is physical. That means these are things that you can see and touch. But your mind is suspended in such a way that you do not understand what you're looking at. So you could be looking at Satan without understanding that this is Satan standing before you, because your mind has been told that this is something else. So everything in this world is physical. Everything that has to do with the Creator and how He made this world is physical. But here is what you have to understand. There are other states of matter which you do not see, but you experience. So the states of matter that we see and touch and feel is either the solid state of matter or the gaseous state of matter. But there are other states of matter which you do not see, but you experience. Now, Satan is a solid as well as a gaseous state, which means you can see Satan and you can touch Satan. I want you to understand that. So, but there are other states of matter which you cannot see and you cannot touch, but you can experience it. An example of that state of matter is a demon. You can experience demons, but you cannot touch and you cannot feel them. You can experience happiness. Does someone see happiness? Can you touch happiness? No, you can't, but you can experience it. It's a state of matter. Can you see pain? You don't see pain, but you can experience it. That is a state of matter. So everything that has to do with this world is physical. It can either stay in a state that you can touch and feel it, or you can experience it, which is metaphysicality. So this is where the wicked in Satan and his children introduce the word spirit. So you do not understand your reality, that your reality is a physical reality. You can see it, you can touch it, and you can experience it. It's not something abstract. So that is why hell and the lake of fire is a literal place. That is why heaven and the Creator is a literal place. It's not just something in your mind. So this is the reality of our world, which a lot of people do not understand. So as long as you keep on using that word spirit, there is no word as spirit. We've already explained what the word spirit is. If you want to know, then go back and watch the Legends of Roll Call and you hear us explain that. But spirituality in itself means metaphysicality. So when someone says they are spiritual, they are saying that they believe in metaphysicality, which means that you are experiencing a state of matter that you cannot touch or feel, but experience. That you are experiencing a state of matter you cannot touch, see, or feel, but you can experience. That is the meaning of metaphysicality, which people ambiguously use the word spirituality without understanding. So, if everything is physical, it means that everything that the Creator does, or everything that the Creator says, is literal. It is not symbolic. It is not an imagination in your mind. These things are real. You can touch it. You can see it. You can feel it. And you can experience it. For the metaphysical states of matter, which you cannot touch and see, which means it should be in a gaseous state or in a solid state. If you did not understand that, you will never understand anything. So, we're back here to showing you what the abominable scum of the earth albinos, anybody with straight hair, who are not human beings in any way. And this is what you're going to find out when you get to the shape of a world. And like we said, the shape of world is not for everybody. So if you do not get an email from us inviting you to get it, then you should know the reason why. And we're going to show you as we get into this video. So here is one of the commandments which was changed. It says, honor thy father and thy mother, that it may be well with you, and thou mayest live long on the good land which the Creator gives to you. This is wrong. It was falsely translated by the albinos, anybody with straight hair, scum of the earth, and the Romans, and the learned elders of Zion, which we're going to speak about in a minute. This was not the commandment, because if you take a look at what's going on around the world today, let's say you have a parent who is a homosexual. Should you honor that parent? Because this would contravene this particular commandment, right? He says, honor thy father and thy mother. If you have a parent who has no intelligence, because some parents lead their children down a road of hurt and pain. Let's say, for example, we did show you a couple of videos ago on Legends of Roll Call on people like Jay-Z, okay, who transgender your children. Should you honor that type of parent? No, you should not. So this commandment was changed. It never said honor your parents. It said honor your high priests. This is what they changed. And the high priests are only in the country of the remnant. So the remnant were not supposed to do anything without their high priest. If they went anywhere to any country, or they moved out of state, they were to carry their high priest with them. They were to make sure that if they were going to a foreign land, that wherever they went, they took a high priest with them, and that they would provide a land and a community for that high priest wherever they lived. Why? Because wherever the high priest lives, the presence of the Creator is there. So when the remnant forsake their high priests, they are forsaking their Creator. So the high priest and the Creator are one and the same. If you've ever heard before in the scripture, when it says that the Creator said that the people had forsaken him, what do you think it meant? It meant that they had forsaken the high priest, because the high priest represents the Creator and the Levitical priesthood. So this is why every king of the remnant is illegal. Their chiefs, their rulers, and their rulers paramount are all illegal according to the tradition. And the learned elders of Zion, who are the rulers paramount, change the laws and the commandments of the remnant so that they could support white supremacy and profit off of it. So when you forsake the Creator, it does not necessarily mean that you stop doing the commandments and practice wickedness, because you will only know the commandments by a high priest. So if you do not have a high priest, you do not know the commandments. Does that make sense now on how people do not understand the meaning of things? Forsaking the Creator means forsaking a high priest. Because it's only through the high priest will you know the Creator. This is the way it works. And the remnant have suffered because they have forsaken their high priest. And this is what we want to show you now. And let's get back to the passage of the scripture that we were showing you previously. So even though we're going to read this particular portion as the way it is written here, I want you to understand that it is not written correctly. Okay? A lot of things has been imputed because all what the scum of the earth, albinos, anybody with straight hair, and the Romans and the learned elders of Zion did was to make sure that the high priest and the Levitical priesthood was disregarded. So they imputed a lot of things to make you think that the high priests were so evil. But here's what you have to understand. The high priest is an institution created by the Creator. So even if a high priest is bad, that means he's not of good character. The high priest by nature is supposed to tell you the truth. So the portion of scripture that we're going to read to you has been written with some deliberate errors because the Romans, the learned elders of Zion, and the scum of the earth, albinos, anybody with straight hair, wanted as much as possible for people to disregard the position of the high priest, and this speaking specifically about the remnant. So they wrote a lot of things into the scriptures to make you believe that the high priests were corrupt, such that you would not regard them. But this was not the case. So even though we read this portion and you see it and they say that the high priest accepted bribes or anything to pervert judgment, it is actually wrong. It is not true. But let's read along so you see and come to understand that forsaking the Creator. So when somebody says, I have forsaken the Creator, it actually means that you have forsaken the high priest. This is what the remnant were not supposed to do. So they set up kings, rulers, chiefs, and rulers paramount over them, and forsook their high priests, which are still with them. So continue to read here. We are reading from the Greek Septuagint Bible in 1 Samuel chapter number 8. But you can read in any other Bible and read along with us, because in the Greek Septuagint is actually going to be Kings 1. So when we read, and it says, and it came to pass when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now, this word judges here is actually misinformation. Because what it's trying to make you believe is that high priests are appointed. They are not appointed. You have to be born. It's a lineage thing. That means if your great-great-great-great-grandfather or your father was not a high priest or your mother was not a high priest, you cannot be a high priest. So it's not by appointment. It's by birthright. So this is one of the nuances which the scriptures imputed wrongly, which when you get our Bible, you will understand that, and the Bible is not going to be for everyone either. So continue reading. It says, and this, the names of his son Joel the firstborn, and the name of the second Abiah, judges in Besabi. And his sons did not walk in his way. This is also wrong. It's imputed. And they turned aside after gain and took gifts, perverted judgments. Do you know why it's wrong? Because it says here that Samuel made his sons judges over Israel. So that means he made his sons to be representation of him. So Samuel being a high priest, if his sons were evil, he would not have given them that position. Why? Because remember, Samuel came from being a second high priest to Eli. And Eli's sons got killed by the Creator in Phinehas. Because why? They were evil. So Samuel would not have followed the same footsteps to appoint his own sons as evil high priests. Samuel would not have followed the footsteps of making his own sons to represent him when he was not physically there among the remnant. So you have to understand how these people write these stories and make you believe in certain ideas. But like we said, until you hear the truth from a high priest, all your reading is not going to be understood. Understanding is key. So let's keep on reading. It says, and the men, the remnant, gathered themselves together and came to Amathaim to Samuel. And they said to him, behold, thou art grown old, and thy sons walk not in thy way, and now set over us a king to judge us as also the nations. This is also wrong. This portion that says that thy sons walk not in thy way, now set over us a king to judge us as also all the nations, is imputed because the only reason why the remnant would have come to Samuel was because Samuel was old. And they just wanted to do whatever they wanted to do, as they have done today by having kings. Because when you read the whole story of scriptures, you'll find out that the kings of the remnant, which people call Israel, all did evil. All of them. And they led the remnant astray. And for this reason, they were taken into captivity by Nebuchadnezzar. And when they came out of captivity, they continued. Even after the high priests had led them out from captivity back into the Middle East, they continued to rank their rulers and kings and rulers paramount and their chiefs over their high priest. And that is the reason why the Creator came. Because by this time, the Sadducees and Pharisees and King Herod were now over the remnant, and the remnant respected them more than their high priest, which they had relegated. So the suffering of the remnant has always been because they had forsaken the high priest and the Levitical priesthood. Because these are the only people who represented the Creator in the earth for the remnant. That is why they were called high priests. So every time you read the word in scripture which says Eli, all right, it means high priests. That is where you get the word elite from, because the high priests were the highest ranking people in the earth, because they represented the Creator. So that is why the so-called wicked kings of the earth constructed the word elite, trying to make themselves as high or as important as a high priest. The high priest is not important. He only represents the Creator. So you have to understand that. So continue reading. It says here, and the thing evil in the eyes of Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. So this is showing you what evil means to the remnants. Remember, this particular video and what we're saying here is directed specifically to the remnant. So having a king, as you can read here in Kings of 1 Samuel chapter number 8, is evil. There is absolutely nothing good that comes from a president, because a president is a representation of a king. A governor is a representation of a king. Your senators is a representation of a king. Your House of Representatives is a representation of a king. Your councillors is a representation of a king. Your district attorneys is a representation of a king. Your chiefs is a representation of a king. Any ruler over you is a representation of a king. If he is not a high priest, he is evil. This is what you have to understand on why the government of this world is evil. Because they are all representation of kingship. Now, one thing you have to understand is this. The world is going to go through so much oppression. Why does it have to go through so much oppression? Because the kings of this world need to subdue you for them to be king, because they are illegal. The Creator never instituted kingship because he's a chief high priest. So because these kings need to show that they are king or sit as king, they need to subdue you because they are not stronger than you. They are not wiser than you. So the only way that they can be king is to oppress you. That is why the world is going to go through so much oppression right now, because the kings are illegal. And naturally, people do not like to be ruled. But they have to be ruled through deception. Because why? They have forsaken their Creator. How do you forsake your Creator? By forsaking and disregarding your high priest and the Levitical priesthood, which means other priests included, which are not high priests. And only the remnants have the Levitical priesthood and the high priest. So this is what I want to show you, so you guys can see. But let's keep on reading so you can actually see the construct of the word. Because as we've said, until you hear the truth from a high priest reading the scriptures to you, you will never understand it. You can read it morning, day, and night. You will not see the truth. So as you can see, it says here, and the thing evil in the eyes of Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed to the Lord. Now this is what's added, okay? Samuel didn't pray. Why? This is what you have to understand. A high priest has the mind of the Creator. That means if you sat before the Creator, you were sitting before a high priest. Do you understand what that means? The high priest has the mind of the Creator. The Creator has the mind of a high priest. It's one and the same. They have the same mind. So if they have the same mind, the high priest does not need to pray to the Creator. He has the mind of the Creator to know the answer to every question that you ask him. All right, it goes on to say again, and the Lord said to Samuel, hear the voice of the people in whatever they shall say, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me from reigning over them. Okay? What does that mean? Now, this particular point, okay, of the scripture, which he says, and the Lord said to Samuel, hear the voice of the people, is wrong. He never said so. The Creator said, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. He does not change his mind. He couldn't have said and made the commandments, as we have shown you, that the remnant were not to set a king over them. That the only people they were to direct all questions in their affairs and living were to the high priest and the Levitical priesthood. Then all of a sudden, because the remnant came and said, we want a king over us, we want a chief, we want a ruler, we want a ruler's paramount, then he said to Samuel, listen to the people and do as they say. No, he never said so. This was imputed. The only thing the Creator told Samuel was, whatever these people say, they have. I want you to look at the connection of the words here. Pay attention, because people never pay attention. I want you to pay attention now. It says, whatever these people, being the remnant, say to you, they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from reigning over them. What does that mean? Because these words are written in which language, such that you do not understand. What this particular portion of scriptures is actually saying is, they have rejected me because they have rejected you. Because the high priest and the Creator is one and the same. So when you forsake the Creator, what it actually means is that you have forsaken the high priest. Because you do not see the Creator in this world. You only see the high priest. You only hear the high priest. You can only know the commandments through a high priest. You do not know the commandments through anybody else but the high priest. So when you forsake the Creator, what it means is that you are forsaken the high priest. When you forsake the high priest, it means that you are forsaken the Creator. So this is what this statement says here. It says, for they have not rejected you. Let's read this right so you see what this statement actually means in the correct translation, which should have been written. It says, for whatever the remnant say to you, they have rejected you because they have rejected me from reigning over them. That was the correct translation. Forsaking the Creator means forsaking a high priest. Because you do not see the Creator physically in this world right now. What you see is the high priest and the Levitical priesthood. And the remnants have suffered day and night from this time period right here in the book of Samuel. Because why? They forgot their commandments. They broke the commandments which said, you shall honor the high priest and the Levitical priesthood, for they are your parents. Which the Romans, the learned elders of Zion, and the scum of the earth albinos, anybody with straight hair, changed the commandment and made it to look like it said that you shall honor your parents. It never said so. So continue reading. It says here, so you can see the construct of the words that the Creator meant that by forsaking the high priest, they have forsaken him. But today, we have been taught wrongly, because all what Satan and his wicked kingship wanted to do was to make you guys to forget that the Levitical priesthood existed. And they set up all the false clerics and clergy to lie to you. So continuing, it says, according to all their doings, which they had done to me from the day that I brought them out of Egypt until this day, even they have deserted me. Deserted me means here they have deserted the high priest, because they were to listen to the high priest and do whatsoever he told them, because he was a representation of the Creator. The mind of a high priest is the mind of the Creator. Even they have deserted me and served other gods, so they do also to you. Do you see that now? That forsaking the Creator means forsaking a high priest. He said also to you, because you can only know the truth. You can only know the commandments through a high priest. And so if you deny that voice, if you deny what you have been told, what you have been told to do, and you think that you know something, you have forsaken the Creator and you are going to the lake of fire. This is why the remnants are suffering till today, as we are showing you now, even from the corrupted version of the scriptures, which we have today right now. So when you read further down the scriptures, you can go read this up if you want, is in 1 Samuel chapter number 8. You can read the whole chapter now that you have the perfect understanding of what the chapter means. That it means that if you forsake the Creator, it means forsaking a high priest. That is what it means. And the high priests are only of the remnants. They come from the remnants. They do not come from anywhere else. You have to be born into it. It's a lineage thing. That means all the high priests and the Levitical priesthood can directly trace their lineage down to who? Down to the Creator through Adam himself, who was the first high priest after the Creator. So one more thing that we're going to read in this particular portion of scripture, because we're not going to read everything. You can go read it, because we want you to understand why a lot of people will pray, especially of the remnants, and will not get answers. So here, it says here in verse chapter number 18, all right, in still 1 Samuel chapter number 8, or 1 Kings, if you're reading from the Greek Septuagint, it says, and you shall cry out in that day because of your king, whom you have chosen to yourselves. And the Creator shall not hear you in those days, because you have chosen to yourselves a king. So, like we have said, everything that happens today in this world, what do the people do? They all cry out to the government. Who is the government? A representation of their kingship. And they wonder why they do not get answers. Because you are crying to the government. You have set a king over you. This is what the remnants have done. But they do not know that this is where their trouble lies. Because they have forsaken the Creator, because they have forsaken their high priest. So for the remnants, because remember, we're not speaking to everybody here. We are speaking specifically about the remnants because this message has to get to them. Everybody who is not a high priest, who is a king, a ruler, a chief, a ruler paramount in their country, a governor, a president, a House of Senate representation, a House of Reps representation, they are all illegal according to the Constitution, according to their tradition, according to their culture, because they have gone against the Creator. They have made themselves enemy against the Creator by forsaking their high priest and the Levitical priesthood. Now, back to what we are trying to make the rulers paramount, because The learned elders of Zion, as we have said, whenever we have put up a video, they have taken it down because they own YouTube. And they have been doing all this with so much impunity because they think that they own the technology. They think that they own everything that they have made because they provide the internet for you. They provided cell phones and televisions and computers. And they have this, great ego and pride to say we can do anything that we want and nobody can stop us. All right. And we had put out a message a time and time again on YouTube. You can go to your own references and look at that message. We told them that if they do not allow our video state, that they take out one video, that this video is going to show up on every platform whatsoever and on every cell phone, the truth of what they are really doing. Now, the learned elders of Zion may have heard that, and in their minds, they would have thought, these people can't do anything. Oh, well, this is the reason why they have to pay attention to this video. Because you've probably heard us say that we have a recognition software, and someone would say, what is a recognition software? We're going to give you a tip of what it's all about, and we want the learned elders of Zion, the rulers paramount of the remnant who run the world for white supremacy. Okay? To understand this, in the shape of a world, we are going to reveal the so-called learned elders of Zion, which the whole world has been infatuated trying to know, who are these guys? Who is the committee of 300, which they so name in code, because it's not actually 300. It's far less than that. We're going to show you some of the learned elders of Zion. We're going to show you their faces. We're going to show you how they sit and hide. And the remnants go and see them without knowing that these are the people oppressing them. They have done this wonderfully for so long. We are going to show you who their children are, their faces and addresses. And there's going to be nowhere for them to hide. Because we did make them a deal, but they never stuck to it. And they thought that they had it all covered. So what is this video about? Besides the fact that we have shown you that rejecting the Creator and forsaking the Creator means forsaking a high priest and not anything else that you've heard. Because you can only know the truth and the commandments through a high priest. This video is about showing you that technology is very, very, very simple. It's about showing you what we are going to show you in the future of how to create your own communications, your own internet, and your own computers. Because everything that you have heard about technology is a lie. It's far more simpler than what they tell you. So we're just going to give some technical terms here a little bit for those who are into technology because they don't understand how things work. Okay? If you have a circuit in which you build anything that's some sort of technology, let's say your cell phone, a modem, a computer, a TV, or anything that you use as a technological device, it contains basically very simple components which you can make. One, it contains a capacitor. Okay? It might contain some sort of transformer. What's a transformer for? It's for making sure that you can reduce the voltage or increase the voltage to the required need. So pay attention. It's going to contain what else we call an inductor. What's the other component that it's going to have? It's going to have a resistor. Okay? What's the next component, which is the most important component? of any technological device or any electronic unit is going to contain a semiconductor. Now, there are such words as transistor, which are used, but a transistor is basically a semiconductor. Now, someone's going to ask, what does a semiconductor mean? Well, you'll find that out in the shape of a world. So, for the learned elders of Zion listening, I hope you understand those technical terms of what is basically the compound or components of an electronic unit. Now, here is what the learned elders of Zion have done to technology. They have added complexity to confuse you. Besides those components that we have just named, they have added complexity to make you confused about how to make an electronic unit for yourself, which is very simple. Because why? They do not want you to know that electronics is very, very, very easy. You can do it at home. So that means you can create your own internet. And you do not have to get on the internet that they created for you to be able to communicate with other people. You can create your own cell phone so that you can make communications. So now, if the learned elders of Zion, I want you to answer this question at this particular point in time. Is there a way, I want you to think about it, that you can send a message, an open air message, and all cell phone receivers in this world can receive it? Because I want you to remember one thing. There is such a thing as an open frequency in communications. Open frequency means it's open. You do not have any restrictions. If you are on that frequency, you can listen to whatsoever is going on. Is it possible? Okay, let's dive a little bit more deeper now, because we want them to understand that technology is very, very simple. The reason why people are confused is because they have told you so many lies about how electronic devices and computers are made. So, for example, they have told you that computers read 0 and 1s. But before we continue, let's play some clips, because these clips that we are playing is going to be narrating how computers operate. And they're coming from the mouth of an albino, anybody with straight hair, the scum of the earth, the idiots who have no common sense and no knowledge. So the question I need to ask at this point in time is because for so many years, we have heard albinos, anybody with straight hair, try to tell us how technology works. And meanwhile, they have never figured out that whatsoever they're saying is wrong. It's not the truth of how technologies, especially computers, work. How do these people who do not know how to distinguish between reality and fantasy, they are senile, stupid, and dumb, get jobs over black people? Because if you find out, if you get into any institution in this world, if you're black, you will notice that the albino, anybody with straight hair who is working at that job, does not know anything. But they are able to stay on the job. But you, as a black person who knows something and you know the way things are supposed to be done, you get no promotions. They fire you for the smallest mistake. But an albino, anybody with straight hair, will keep making mistake after mistake because they don't know anything, but they stay there forever. Why? It's the biggest question that a lot of people need to answer. Why? But before we continue, let's hear the ramblings of how they tell you how a computer works. And then we'll come back and talk some more.
Hi, my name is Lamore Freed, and I'm an engineer here at Adafruit Industries. And this is where I do engineering and design, and I design circuits for fashion and music and technology.
My name is Federico Gomez Suarez, and I'm a software developer with Microsoft Hack for Good. And I look into using technology to help us solve some of the big social problems of our times.
You may have heard that computers work on ones and zeros. Or you may have seen scary-looking visuals like this. But almost nobody today actually deals directly with these ones and zeros. But ones and zeros do play a big role in how computers work on the inside.
Inside a computer are electric wires and circuits that carry all the information in a computer. How do you store or represent information using electricity?
Well, if you have a single wire with electricity flowing through it, the signal can either be on or off. That's not a lot of choices, but it's a really important start. With one wire, we can represent a yes or a no, true or false, a 1 or a 0, or anything else with only two options. This on-off state of a single wire is called a bit, and it's the smallest piece of information a computer can store. If you use more wires, you get more bits. More ones and zeros, with more bits, you can represent more complex information. But to understand that, we need to learn about something called the binary number system.
In the decimal number system, we have 10 digits from 0 to 9, and that's how we've all learned to count. In the binary number system, we only have 2 digits, 0 and 1. With these 2 digits, we can count up to any number. Here's how this works. In the decimal number system we're all used to, each position in a number has a different value. There's the 1 position, the 10 position, the 100 position, and so on. For example, a 9 in the 100 position is a 900. In binary, each position also carries a value, but instead of multiplying by 10 each time, we multiply by 2. So there's the 1's position, the 2's position, the 4's position, the 8's position, and so on. For example, the number 9 in binary is 1001. To calculate the value, we add 1 times 8 plus 0 times 4 plus 0 times 2 plus 1 times 1. Almost nobody does this math because computers do it for us. What's important is that any number can be represented with only ones and zeros, or by a bunch of wires that are on or off. The more wires you use, the larger the numbers you can store.
With 8 wires, you can store numbers between 0 and 255. That's 8 ones. With just 32 wires, you can store all the way from 0 to over 4 billion. Using the binary number system, you can represent any number you like. But what about other types of information, like text, images, or sound? It turns out that all these things can also be represented with numbers. Think of all the letters in the alphabet. You could assign a number to each letter. A could be 1, B could be 2, and so on. You can then represent any word or paragraph as a sequence of numbers. And as we saw, these numbers can be stored as on or off electrical signals. Every word you see on every web page or your phone is represented using a system like this. Now, let's consider photos, videos, and all the graphics you see on a screen. All of these images are made out of teeny dots called pixels, and each pixel has a color. Each of the colors can be represented with numbers. When you consider that a typical image has millions of these pixels, and a typical video shows 30 images per second, now we're talking about a lot of data here.
Every sound is basically a series of vibrations in the air. Vibrations can be represented graphically as a waveform. Any point on this waveform can be represented by a number. And this way, any sound can be broken down into a series of numbers. If you want higher quality sound, you would pick 32-bit audio over 8-bit audio. More bits means a higher range of numbers.
When you use a computer to write code or make your own app, you're not dealing directly with these ones and zeros. But you will be dealing with images or sound or video. So if you want to understand how computers work on the inside, it all comes down to these simple ones and zeros and the electrical signals in the circuits behind them. They are the backbone of how all computers input, store, process, and output information.
I'm Joanne Larson. I work at Seagate in a design center. I have two drives here just to illustrate a couple of form factors that we design. This is an example of a 2.5-inch drive, as we call it, which would be used, for example, in a notebook computer. This is what we call a 3.5-inch form factor. A hard disk drive is so named because the heart of the matter is where the data is stored, which is on these disks, and the data is stored magnetically as ones and zeros or as magnetic bits that are oriented north or south. It is read or written, as we say, by very small transducers on heads.
By very small transducers on heads. By very small transducers on heads.
By very small transducers on heads.
So this little roughly triangular shaped feature can be thought of as the size of a bit. When we write, and this is the write pull, the flux is essentially focused through that pull. The corresponding area on the media below it is magnetized. The head is out flying on a suspension at the end of an arm. This is an arm, which is part of what we call the head stack assembly. The arms move back and forth across the stroke and read the various tracks that are laid out on the disk. These tracks are so narrow that we fit about 300,000 of them in an inch of radius. The arms, the HSA pivot, is actuated in this case, and I think this is kind of fun, magnetically. As we know, electricity and magnetism exist together, and when a current is run through a wire, there is a corresponding orthogonal magnetic field. So how we are using that here is that there is a coil, which is, it's actually hidden under this magnet. Under this plate there's a magnet. And below the magnet is a coil. The driving force of the current, or conversely the magnetism, forces the back end of the coil to move in one direction or the other. Right here we see the motor that spins the media. When the drive is powered off, the heads are resting on this ramp. The arm swings off so that the heads are preserved and they're not touching the media or anything. If I want to write or I want to read, in other words, if I want to record a picture or if I want to bring out a picture file, the arms swing out over the disk and the heads are flying over the tracks as we call them. So it goes to a very specific radius, and the drive will be given an address to go. Let's pretend that was the radius, that was the track that contains the picture, or part of the picture, that is the file that we said, please show me this picture. The data is recorded in magnetic domains that are very small surface area on the disk. The transducer on the head senses for that domain the direction of the magnetism and whether it is a 1 or a 0, and that's a bit. The head takes all of those bits and transmits that electrically up into the channel. It is reconstructed back into a data form that we recognize as an image. What we are looking at right now is the surface on the recording head that's facing the media surface. So the disk is spinning under the head, and there's an airflow or shear between this air-bearing surface and the media surface. These darker areas are in relief outward, and the medium range is actually inward. And these surfaces in relief are functioning in the way that we would think of wings, or the features on a jet that control the flow of air. Everything that we can see in this view is only to support what we call the transducer out at what is the trailing edge of the head, and it's where the magnetic flux is read and written, or where we control the flux back and forth between the head and the disk. This is a very close view of the transducer, and at the top, it's not necessarily possible to see here, but we'll show a picture in a minute, is what we call the right pole. It's a very tiny dot in the middle of a triangle at that location, and that's where the pole that writes is visible. Down in the middle of this stripe is what we call the read element, and that is the location where the magnetic signal is sensed for the read function. So our magnification right now is 85,000, and our micron bar is 200 nanometers. When you think about it, and you think about the size of molecules, we realize that some of these layers that we're looking at are roughly a few atoms or a few molecules thick. That is particularly true of the read element, and it's just a tiny dot or sliver when we look at it, even at 100,000x, and it has several layers, which again are atoms thick at most. Very simple in concept, and an amazing amount of technology.
So we played all that video to show you that every albino, anybody with straight hair, this is someone who's trying to show you how a hard drive, which is one of the basic components of a computer, actually works. And they have looked at this hard drive for over donkey years. And never figured out that what they say is not true. Why? Because an albino, anybody with straight hair, does not have any common sense. They only regurgitate what they've been told without thinking about it. You have been told all your life that computers operate by ones and zeros. 1 and zeros. Is it true? This is the most stupidest thing that you've ever heard in your whole entire life. But so many people will believe it. Even the so-called people who write programs in the greatest programming languages, or machine language as they call it, they write maybe JavaScripts or C++ scripts, and they tell you that a computer understands 0 and 1. Does that even make sense? But so many people have believed this all their lives. Computers do not operate on 0 and 1s. This is the biggest lie that they have ever told you about technology, because they tell you all these lies so you do not understand how a computer actually works. Because once you do not have what? Common sense, and you believe in albinos, anybody with straight hair, that they are the greatest minds on earth telling you the truth, you have believed a lie. And until you hear the truth from a high priest, you will never understand the reality of this world. Computers do not understand 0 and 1s. They do not operate by 0 and 1s or binary or anything that you have heard of. It's not how it operates. Now, over the years, the learned elders of Zion have been trying to make us believe that technology is evolving. Technology has not evolved. They only added complexity to confuse you. So before, you could play your movies on a DVD, but now they want you to stream it. Why do they want you to stream it? Because they do not want you to understand how a DVD-ROM drive works. That is the reason why they decided to hide it from you by setting up streaming companies for you to stream or watch your movies. So you won't understand that it's very simple. Now, people will always say, okay, that technology has evolved from analog to digital. What does it mean? The fool who even says that does not even understand what it means. What does analog mean and what does digital mean? Let me give you a perfect example so you understand. Analog just means, for example, that you go up a flight of stairs physically. All right? So that means you have a flight of stairs, like you have a flight of stairs in a stadium. So you walk up those stairs physically. Digital just means that you go up the stairs on a stair climber. So what's the difference between digital and analog? Analog means that you are physically operating the system and that you cannot make any changes to that system. It is fixed because you can't move your stadium. You can't move a flight of stairs in a house. It's physical. So you have to always go down there and climb up the stairs or not. Digital just means that you can make continuous changes to the physical aspect of a device and make it to mimic real life when it is not real. So for example, when you go to, let's say, the gym, and you go up the Stairmaster or stair climber, which mimics you climbing a stairs, all right? That is digital. You are able to make continuous changes to that environment by, you can set up the speed of the stair climber and make it go faster. You can make it come slower. You can move the stair climber from one gym to another gym. That is the meaning of digital. So the only difference in which they have confused us to believe that technology has changed is by the use of word digital and analog. Analog just means fixed. You have to physically do the work. Digital just means you are mimicking real life. You can make continuous changes or variables to your equipment. So computers are pretty easy to make, and every form of technology that you have been told. But we have been brainwashed through so many lies to make us believe that it is that complex, that computers read 0 and 1s. And now someone's going to ask, how do you know that what you're saying is true? Well, I'm going to give you a tip, okay? I have a bachelor's of science in computer sciences. For me, who is on the team with the high priests. And that is the secret on why I am with them, because I understand how computers work. I understand because I went to a school that told me the lies, and I just sat down and I laughed all the way through. So when the learned elders of Zion are busy taking out our videos, okay, and we had made a deal with them and said, if you allow our videos play on YouTube, this information is not going to be on every cell phone. The question we now need to ask them now, so they know that this is true, is I want to ask them, if I punch a paper with some holes and put a flashlight through it, what am I going to get? Because computers is as easy as punching holes in paper and setting it up in a balloon filled with air and punching it too. That's how easy it is. And if they understand that frame of words, they will understand that I know exactly what I'm saying. I want you to understand that the remnant, by having a king, a ruler, a chief, a ruler paramount, that they have forsaken their creator, because every ruler is in contradiction, is against the creator. For the remnant, they were only supposed to know their high priest and to refer to him in all matters of anything that they wish to know. But because they have forsaken their high priests, they have forsaken their creator. That is what it means to forsake the creator. And they have set up rulers paramount in the learned elders of Zion, who've been sitting pretty up till now and think that whatever we say, they can't do anything. They don't know how the technology works. And we did ask you a question. Is there such a thing as open air communication? So, in the shape of a world, we will show you how a simple computer actually works. Because everything that you've heard about computers and how they work is a lie. Computers do not read 0 and 1s. This is the biggest lie that they've told you about technology. And also, when we told the learned elders of Zion that this information is going to be on every cell phone, they have never thought that we actually know how the technology works and how to build our own internet, how to build our own computers and our own cell phones. Because they think that we are still going to be putting up this information and everything that we intend to show on their own networks. But that's not going to happen. We are building a whole entire system which is simple and very free. But for anybody to get that service and to understand how technology actually works, because it's very, very simple, as we've explained, you need to be immersed into the concealed mystery. And this is your only chance, because as we've said, now we are speaking English because we are trying to get to the remnant, those who have a remnant parent in their lineage who are not really the remnant because they do not speak the language. They do not understand because they do not speak the language. They do not understand the traditions and culture. So we are trying to address them first. Because when we get out from YouTube and we start doing what we really intend to do, which we're not going to divulge at this point in time, it's going to be specifically be in the remnant language, because it's targeting the remnant specifically. Because once they hear the language, they will know it's talking to them. So this is your chance for those who are not the remnant to get the opportunity by understanding how simple technology works. So in the future, or very soon, as we could say, it's not going to take that long, because we're going to show you how to make a simple computer, or how a computer actually works on the shape of a world, so you can start building yours. But we will show you how to create your own internet, your own televisions, and your own phones. Because what the wicked learned elders of Zion and the dumb albinos, anybody with straight hair, have made the world to know is to be advanced users. Because this lady right here trying to show you how a hard drive works, which is used on a computer, is only talking about what they told her, which is not the truth. Because computing is very, very simple. It's not that difficult. And we will show you that. So for the learned elders of Zion, so they think that we are not just talking. I want to ask you a question now, another question. When you flip through a phone and look at images, what do you think you're looking at? So if you understand that now, so everything that you've been told about how a computer works is a lie. Is because they have been regurgitating this from the mouth of an albino, anybody with straight hair, the scum of the earth, the children of Satan, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, who are all Indians from India, who have no common sense. And that's why the word idiot, which we call idiot today, was invented for them, because they don't know anything. So everything you've been told about programming languages, machine language, machine code, bits and bytes are all nothing but pure lies. So they've set everybody to be learning all these files of a programming language or machine code and say this is how they make computers work. It's got nothing to do with that. Computers is as easy as punching paper and making holes in it. That's all what it is. And none of you will ever understand that until you're initiated into the concealed mystery of this world. Because until you hear the truth from a high priest, all your understanding of every matter that has to do with life is a lie. So, computers read zeros and ones? Yeah, right. And we leave you with these words. Always look with your eyes, but see with your mind. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet, that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beasts, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire, burning with brimstone. And Satan, the devil, the evil, the wickedness, the lying, the organized mind that lies and deceives the nation, that deceived them that was cast into the lake of fire, in the kingdom of this world. The lake of fire, which burneth with brimstone, which is the lava and volcanic explosions that you see everywhere, where the beast and the false prophet, the world president, worshipped and endeared by the public today, even though not knowing that this is their false prophet and world president, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever in the lake of fire that burns, and they will not be consumed, but will burn for all eternity. And this every lineage of the false prophets of the world president believe. say it openly, that they do not believe that the Creator can make you burn in a lake of fire for all eternity for free will that they gave you. But in their minds, they know that the free will that they're talking about is the free will to do evil and wickedness upon humanity, and the wicked public worship and endear and love this man, the world president, false prophet of Satan, but is not revealed